Okay, ready? Everybody settle and action.
Warning, Critique Revolve contains adult language and discussions. If you're easily offended,
You're one ugly motherfucker. Go ahead. Make my day.
Well, that's great. This is fucking great, man.
It rubs clothes on the skin. It doesn't even have
Mostly come at night. Mostly. Wow! Holy look!
short round.
There is no spoon.
English, motherfucker! Do you speak it?
All right, hello, welcome everyone to Critique Revolve, Rayman Digital's exclusive media and film podcast. I am Michael, your host, and I am back here early. We are still supposed to be at our winter break, but I am here early along with Thomas and David. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello. We're here early, but it is our Oscar season, and this will be the third year in a row that we are going to dedicate our time to Oscar coverage. We generally care about the Oscar nominations. This year, it's going to be tough
That's the thing is like,
to get excited about these films because there's just not a lot of really solid films.
No, you don't have the Oppenheimer or
No.
the Barbie or anything that basically is making.
you have nothing
Waves.
that's making waves. And I would say,
Wicked has generated a lot of
but
conversation.
not because of the movie.
But
Yeah.
not positive conversation, which there's a bit of a dissonance there because you have a lot of people swearing that Wicked is a fantastic movie. A lot of people you generally probably would think wouldn't like the movie went to go see the movie and they say it's really good, but then they're baffled and turned off by the odd behind the scenes PR banter between the
Yes.
cast. Very strange times that we live in. People all wear their emotions on their sleeve. They go through psychoanalytic therapy in the middle of a PR stunt.
Oh my
it's
God,
very
yeah.
strange stuff going on in Hollywood land of late.
What's left of it after the fire?
Yeah. Have they even got those fires under control yet?
I have not heard
I've
about
not
them in a
heard
few
that.
days, so I'm assuming the fires are out
Or
at time of recording.
LA has been completely burnt to the ground.
there's no one
and,
left.
Yeah, there's no one left.
and there's no one
They
being
moved all here to Arizona.
If you hear this, you are the resistance. No one's alive. All right. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to go through the Oscar nominations like we did last year. Now, typically what we've done, and we're going to try to stick to this, is we're going to do 3 shows. We're going to do the first one, which is the Oscar nomination discussion. We're going to go through the list, offer a few thoughts where we feel is necessary. And then for the second show, we'll actually talk about the films that have been nominated after we've watched all of them. We'll come back and talk about them and also offer our opinions on which films we think will win and which films we want to win. And that may be different. Those are 2 different questions, right, David?
Oh, yeah.
The films that we think are going to win are not necessarily the films we want to win, which I think has been the case for the last 2 years.
Oh, exactly. But it's even worse this time around.
Well, I think last year we were right for, I'd have to go back and re-listen. But
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
we were right about a lot of them simply because while there was a lot of things in the running, there was really only a couple that took anything home, and we kind of bet on those horses, like
And it came
Oppenheimer and
through.
Poor Things. Like, I know we all enjoyed Poor Things and thought it was going to do quite well, but I don't think anyone knew how well it was going to do, despite its kind of controversy with some people after the fact. But we also knew that Barbie, for its praise and all of its pop culture impact,
Was not
we knew
gonna
that was not walking home with anything.
Yeah.
And like, because we're I think more plugged in than the average consumer.
This is what we do.
And we're more realistic than the average critic.
Yeah.
So
We analyze. That's what we do. If you can pinpoint one thing that we do on this network, it's overanalyze.
Let's dig deeper into that. What is it to overanalyze?
All right. So Emilia Perez leads the nominations with 13, followed by The Brutalists and Wicked with 10 apiece. Emilia Perez does, in fact, lead the 2025 Oscar nominations. And that has left a lot of people baffled.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll be honest. I'll just come out and say it. I hadn't even heard of this fucking movie prior to the announcement of what got nominated. I didn't know anything about it. And when I first Googled it, I thought it was a joke. I'm like, no, come on.
Yeah.
That seems too silly. That feels like a 4chan AI written synopsis.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I had seen clips online on TikTok and Instagram Reels, and I thought it was a joke. I didn't know that was real.
Right.
I thought with this day and age of AI, I thought people dubbed in some ridiculous songs into these clips. Like, no way, Zoe Zatanna is amazing. No way would she do this weird, bizarre film. And when I say weird and bizarre, it's not because it's an LGBT film. That has nothing to do with it. It's a strange movie.
Yes.
For people to be rallying behind.
You should play some of the lyrics.
I have a clip that I'll play in a moment. It's taken from one of their songs, and it'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. The film is just very strange, and it might have, in my opinion, a reverse effect than the fact that people want this film to have, much like the gay cowboy movie that Jane Campion did. Power of the Dog.
Or even Joker 2.
Play a deux.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes these filmmakers might be out of touch.
You think?
The thing about Emilia Perez is it doesn't really matter if it connects with the mainstream because it connected with the Academy in a big way, obviously. So the film scored 13 noms, setting a record for a non-English language film. That surpasses the previous record holders, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Roma, which each earned 10.
That's the only reason why I heard about Emilia Perez, because like I love international films, and this past year that's been the one that everyone's talking about internationally. Where I wasn't surprised when basically they announced that Emilia Perez was actually nominated for the best international film.
Yeah, see,
that makes sense.
That makes sense to a degree, yes.
When they basically said, "Oh, it's also going for the best picture." That's what caught me off guard, because no one here stateside probably has seen it.
Yeah, and we'll get into the complete best picture category in just a moment.
I'm just going to interrupt for a minute.
Go for it.
It's been nominated for 13.
Yeah.
Which is a record, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that's what they said, according to the report.
I have to argue, how the fuck have I not even heard of this movie? How is this in nomination for 13 Academy Awards when Titanic and Lord of the Rings Return of the King took away 11 nominations, and in Lord of the Rings, 11 wins? Is this on par with that?
Well, no, because movies that you mentioned, they were a part of the zeitgeist of the time. They were relevant. So, Thomas, your point is 100% accurate. This movie is not registering on anyone's radar. And I don't know if that's necessarily because the movie's bad, or is it more a reflection of the times that we are in culturally, where movies are just not being made. Those films that Thomas mentioned, Titanic, Lord of the Rings, those types of films are not being made in mass. And because they're not being made in mass, we don't have choices. And the movies that we do get that are along those lines may not be Oscar contenders. But that's the importance of having to push out more movies. The more movies we have out there that are mainstream pictures, we have more potential for mainstream nominations, which do need to exist. Otherwise, the academies will no longer be relevant in any way.
And you can argue that already to some people.
Yeah. Now, from an artistry standpoint, yes, they're relevant, but movies are not made in a vacuum.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, too. That is so hard for me to believe. And I do, while I acknowledge, how many things are being made, I mean, production's down like 40% this year over previous years. which is huge in any industry. If any other industry said we're down 40%,
they would be closing
they'd be
down.
closing shop.
Yeah.
It's almost like the pandemic time.
Right. Well, between the pandemic, 2 major strikes, and the fires, like Hollywood, what's left of it is in ashes, both literally and metaphorically. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, is this because they're not making as much, or is this once again, are we reaching the zenith? Now, admittedly, I haven't seen it. I can't speak for it fully yet. But I wonder, are we reaching the zenith of critics so far removed from the masses? Is this the turning point?
I don't know. Have critics even watched this? Because you got to remember,
I don't know who
critics
has.
don't have any say in this. This is Academy members.
But critic darlings tend to be things.
I get what you're saying.
You know, that the Academy will also reflect at this time.
Correct.
Like Roma, that will get a ton of nominees and walk away with one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Okay, I don't know. That doesn't feel like a good litmus test these days. And maybe it's just the times we're in, but it used to be if you were nominated for that many things, you were going to walk home with at least half.
Yeah. Well, you hit it on the head, Thomas. 40% down.
Yeah.
Hollywood's 40% down in production. That's going to leave a mark, not just economically.
And that's why I think you're seeing more of a push on the international field. Because the international field, if you kind of look at like the last couple of years, the international field has been starting to catch up. Like you're seeing more and more films from overseas overshadow.
Have a chance,
I would agree with that 100%, David. I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine. It seems like America, I'm not going to be political here, but it seems like America across the board, not just in movies, but I'm going to stay specifically with the business of filmmaking. We're just not it anymore. Because I have watched over 150 films this year. Okay? 150 films. That's a lot.
A lot, man.
80% of those were indie films or foreign films. And not by choice necessarily. Yes, I love those types of movies, but there just aren't enough mainstream options that are good. There are a lot of bargain bin type of straight to streaming films that I watched the opening 5 minutes of, and they look so generic. Just because you put an A-list star in a movie nowadays doesn't mean it's going to be good.
Yes.
Like Lawrence Fishburne is in some awful films of late.
Oh,
Liam Neeson is in a new movie every week.
I'm waiting for the Naked Gun remake, though. I'm not gonna lie, I want that bad.
So they're making movies, but they're making these really poorly produced films because it's not about making films, it's about making content for people's platforms.
That's the thing, is like it's no longer, the quality is not important anymore.
Right. And I think that's what's happening with the Oscars. That's why we're having selections that people are no longer watching. And this isn't about, this isn't about a political bend on movies. This is about there just not being a lot of options. When you don't have a lot of options, you don't have a lot of mainstream best pictures or other best directing films being nominated. And when that's happening, you're not connecting with the mainstream for your Academy Awards because these people haven't seen the movies that you're honoring.
Yeah. And the interesting thing that I would be wondering is, like, if you were to look back at the past year, what the top 5 grossing films of this year
of
2024.
Do you have that list pulled up by chance?
Like, would you actually think those top 5 would be Academy worthy, though? Because, like, just like what you were alluding to.
So top 5 worldwide box office 2024. Number 5, Wicked, which is nominated.
Okay.
Number 4, Despicable Me 4.
That is not nominated.
Number 3, Moana 2.
Not nominated.
Number 2, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Not nominated.
And taking home the crown is Inside Out 2.
Not nominated.
3 of these are animated children's movies. Now, admittedly, that always does pretty well financially.
And arguably not the best animated, in my opinion.
Inside Out 2 is good.
Inside Out 2 is good, but Wild Robot was fantastic. That film in itself was actually better than any of those films. So that's what I mean. Look at the discrepancy right there. You have the top 5 grossing movies of 2024, and none of them, except for Wicked, are the ones that actually people will argue, oh, it's Academy worthy.
They're not even in the top 10 financially because, well, one other one is because number 6 is Dune Part 2, and that one's nominated. 7 is Mufasa, the Lion King of unnecessary reboot prequels. 8, Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire.
Deservedly.
9, Kung Fu Panda 4. That's, I mean, and then number 10, Venom, The Last Dance.
Why do I see like Mike's soul leaving him?
Because I was just reading a book that was written in the 60s, okay?
Mhm.
And it's about culture and society. And this statement, it just...
I'm sorry, Mike. It looks like you're going to cry.
I am!
You're going to cry.
This guy said, the very beginning, he was talking about like the way Americans think, and he's American. And I believe he was a public intellectual at one point too. And he was saying that sadly, his ideas and things he was talking about a philosopher and a few other sociologists and futurists. And he said that, unfortunately, these people are rock stars. He says they are rock stars in their own countries because they're foreign people, Germans, French. But people don't give two fucks about them here in America.
Yeah.
And he's all, because America has never been intellectual and never will be intellectual. And that's why we have Moana 2, Inside Out, Venom, Deadpool, and fucking Wolverine. What was the rest of those shitty films all on the top 10?
Despicable Me 4, Mufasa, Kong versus Godzilla,
5-year-olds trying to
and
escape
Kung Fu
reality.
Panda. Yes,
Maybe that's the real telling part.
Look at all those films, Mike. They are pure escapists.
Maybe that's saying something about culture. Maybe that's what people need.
And they're all children's films. So that is the ultimate escape.
Listen, I don't feel good about culture, I don't want to feel better by going to see a bunch of childish movies. Like if I have the knife on my wrist, just push down.
You're going to want to go down from elbow. I mean, what?
Thomas did not hesitate to give me assistance.
I do want to share though the crown jewel for the critics, or at least for the Oscar currently, Amelia Perez. Want to guess what number that's in of grossing?
It's got to be 1,000 because it wasn't even a theatrical release.
Yeah,
it's less than it's higher than 1,000.
Yeah,
163.
Jesus,
bringing in a whopping 11.4 million.
It's just no cultural relevance whatsoever
to America.
Just none. Yeah. All right, so let's get into these nominations here. This is a crazy list here. Best Picture. Let's start with Best Picture. Anora. Anybody ever seen this film?
No.
I have.
Okay. The Brutalist.
I know
Not
of it.
Yet.
I know it's a tome of 3.5 hours.
It's supposed to be a film of all films.
Yes.
It's being touted as one of the greatest films of all time in a lot of ways. From a lot of film circles.
High bar.
Yes.
High bar.
It's a lot of people are calling it a return to film. Like meaning in general.
Well,
like
that it's the same runtime as Cleopatra.
The epics. Well, the director went head to head with PR people. They were talking to him and chastising him a bit about his running time. And he just said, what is it about Americans and your fucking dedication to conventions? Let's break conventions.
Because conventions tested well in markets 18 to 35 males.
Because our children do not have the attention span.
What?
We also have, after The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown.
Which is the name of the movie.
Starring Timothy
Chalamet.
Conclave.
I did see that one.
Thomas and I reviewed it.
Mm-hmm.
Dune Part 2.
Saw that one. I think that's the biggest mainstream title on here.
And that wasn't on the top 10 films.
That was
on
number 6.
Number 6.
Yeah.
Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. Now, if you guys have those films pulled up, can you give us a synopsis of each of those films and who directed it and who stars in those? And that's the only thing that we'll do for the only category that we'll do this for.
Okay.
So we have a general idea moving forward, who's involved in what film, which actors are up for those lead acting roles, as well as supporting and directing. The Brutalist is generating a lot of conversation within film geek circles because it's a 3.5 hour movie with a 15-minute intermission.
Well, also the production that's going into it.
And the production, the film was shot horizontally in order to project on a 70 no, it's a whole process that I'll get into on our next show. But basically, it helps with the 70 millimeter projection of the film.
It's supposed to take the IMAX picture and boost it up like 1,000-fold.
It's using like 8 perforations. It's insane. Process. Yeah, it's really cool. All right, David,
Okay.
so do you have the list or does Thomas have the list?
So I've got a couple.
I got a couple too.
I've got Nora, Nickel Boys, Amelia Perez, and Dune.
Okay, go through the ones you have.
So
Thomas.
Honora, a young escort from Brooklyn, meets and impulsively marries the son of a Russian oligarch. Once the news reaches Russia, her fairy tale is threatened as her parents set out for New York to get the marriage annulled. It is written and directed by Sean Baker, stars Mikey Madison, Paul Westman, Yura Borsalov. I'm not butchering that name, which is a real likelihood I could. So it's a like thriller crime Romeo Juliet vibe here.
Okay. And the next one?
I got The Brutalist. Speaking of which, The Brutalist is escaping post-war Europe. A visionary architect comes to America to rebuild his life, his career, and his marriage. On his own in a strange new country, he settles in Pennsylvania where a wealthy and prominent industrialist recognizes his talent. And just like what Mike alluded to, every single film geek is just jizzing themselves over this film. It's directed by Brady Corbett,
who is relatively new on the scene.
Yeah, but the person that everyone talks about is the cinematographer, who is Lowell Crowley, and that's the one that everyone says it has to be a lock is him for best cinematography.
Yeah,
because of what the work that they've done into this film, and the cast you have. I just lost it.
Adrian Brody.
You have Adrian Brody,
he's
Felicity Jones, Guy Pearce, and from what I've read,
that's about, a good cast too.
Yeah, from what I've read about this story, it's pretty depressing. Like everyone says that.
Is that just Adrian Brody's thing?
It is. There's a lot of jokes going on right now about that.
And I've read more notes on the story itself. Guy Pearce, what those two characters, no spoilers. The relationship of those is just dark. So when this is the type
I love
of film,
both of them, so I'm ready.
This is the type of film that you're going to be, everyone said, 3 hours, and don't be surprised if you're depressed after this.
Oh, I'm not living unless I'm depressed. So I'm the depressed Hulk. I'm always depressed. That's my secret.
Mike just comes out of there all gray or green.
Thomas, do you have the next one?
A Complete Unknown. New York, 1961, an unknown 19-year-old named Bob Dylan arrives with his revolutionary talent. He forges relationships with music icons of Greenwich Village on his meteoric rise, culminating in a performance that reverberates worldwide. Written and directed by James Mangold, stars Timothy Chalamet, Edward Norton, Eli Fanning. This is the Bob Dylan biopic. There's always like it was Rocket Man and Bohemian Rhapsody. And
this one
is better.
This is better.
I don't want to get into too many of our thoughts, but I will say this. I would have been surprised if this didn't get nominated because this feels like a classic Oscar film. When I went to go see this on opening day in December, it was a packed crowd. You can see the smiles on people's faces. They were clapping when you were supposed to clap. People left the theater talking. There was a lot of general enthusiasm around the film. The performance by Chalamet. What's his name? I always forget his name.
Timothy Chalamet.
Chalamet. Yeah, Timothy Chalamet. He's just great as Bob Dylan. It's a really good, solid Oscar type of film.
And they had a really good choice as director was Mangold. Mangold can do these types of films.
I'm not a big fan of, biopics.
Because it's the
But
same
that's
template
a
every
surprise
time.
about this film to me.
I'm
Yeah,
not
same
a
here.
big, especially musical biopics. I'm just I think like they've been overdone. And the last one I liked was actually the Johnny Cash one.
Yeah.
That Mangold
Walking
did.
Tall.
Yeah. No, not Walking.
Well, no, not Walking. But
Walk
like,
the line.
Walk the Line.
Yeah.
Compared to the ones that basically were nominated the year prior, like what you brought up, Rocket Man and Bohemian Rhapsody, this does a better justice to the person they're trying to talk about.
I think Bohemian Rhapsody was a okay at best
It was okay.
movie with more popular music and a great ending sequence. Rocket Man maybe told a better story, but was less overall interesting.
Mhm.
Not as visually stunning either. So, I mean, if this is, those aren't necessarily high bars in the last few years.
Exactly. And that's the thing is like, after those,
It's not a Star is Born.
I had like literally low expectations for this film. But then after I left it, I was like that audience that you were talking about, Mike. I was like going, oh, I'm gonna pull out a Bob Dylan album. Just
All right,
listen to it for
I'll
the first
check it out.
time in a long
Yeah, I
time.
didn't expect to enjoy the movie as much as I did, but it was a good film. And we'll talk about it more in depth during our next discussion. Okay, so for Best Picture, what's the next one up?
Let's see.
It's Conclave.
Oh, here we go. Conclave. Cardinal Lawrence has one of the world's most secretive and ancient events, participating in the selection of a new pope. Surrounded by powerful religious leaders in the halls of the Vatican, he soon uncovers a trail of deep secrets that could shake the very foundation of the Roman Catholic Church.
And in all actuality, it shook the very faith of Christians around the world.
The world.
And watch the movie to know why.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
It's a very good movie, but it's I would say if you are a devout Christian, you are going to be not offended. I would think that they would consider this highly blasphemous.
Yes. Yeah. That's the thing that I was surprised
Perturbed.
with. That's why I was surprised with
It's
seeing
the
like
equivalent
a lot
of drawing a cartoon of Muhammad, in my opinion, is what they do with this movie.
Yes.
It is a
Or
great
like drawing
movie.
a dick on the face of the Mona Lisa. Just like,
Yeah.
just coming up and putting that old stamp on it.
Or giving her a dick.
Okay. Like, it's also one of those movies where I really enjoyed watching it and the performances were good and I liked where the story was going.
Well, you had a
I
really
don't know
good
if it would
cast.
have rewatchability, which isn't
Yes.
something we normally talk about quite a lot. But it is one where I'm like,
It's a very interesting movie because
Yes. it's hard to talk about.
I don't want to give out spoilers, but it is a good movie in that it illuminates certain political aspects of Catholicism.
It creates discussion.
I think it is a thought piece, true, David.
Yeah.
And I think it has like the right message in a way, but I'm not sure. I think it was just the wrong, perhaps, delivery. And that's as most cryptic as I can get.
Yeah. I don't know if I would put this on Best Picture.
That seems
Possibly
high.
nominated for something. There were
Acting.
great performances, but Best Picture, I'm not quite sure. David, next film.
Next film, you got it, Thomas?
I got this one. Dune Part 2. Paul Atreides unites with the Freeman while on a war path of revenge against the conspirators who destroyed his family. Facing a choice between the love of his life and the fate of the universe, he endeavors to prevent a terrible future. Written and directed by, I'm going to butcher the name, Dennis, how do you say his last name?
Villanueva.
Villanueva. All right. Starring Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, Dave Bautista, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Florence Pugh, Rebecca Ferguson. The fucking list goes on. Like Christopher Walken. Like everybody was in this. I think this is the biggest mainstream movie.
These are the types of films from the 90s and early 2000s.
Lord of the Rings
that got
era.
nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Yes.
Popular film,
Bigger than life.
high quality, beautiful cinematography, great acting. It's
This one
The
deserves.
movie, it's the movie of olds.
Yeah.
You know, the greats, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying in terms it's a perfect film. I'm saying it's that type of movie
Right.
that you would expect. All right, the next one, Emilia Perez.
Yes. You got that one, David?
Hold on, I pull up.
I've got it if you want to get the next one.
I got the Emilia Perez one.
Okay.
Emilia Perez, a Mexican lawyer, is offered an unusual job to help a notorious cartel boss retire and transition into living as a woman, fulfilling a long-held desire. This is actually directed by I'm going to butcher this one, Jacques Audiard. And as I said, this was actually released more in the international field before it came to the States.
Yeah.
So yeah, the international audience had a chance to actually see this. And that's what I was like originally thinking. Oh, that's who pushed it, was the international field was like, oh, this is our best film. This is our best film globally, which when you look at I haven't seen the film yet, but when you look at the synopsis, I'm like going, okay, is this the best?
Best picture, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure. I'll have to wait, of course, till I see the complete film. However, we have a very fun little clip
To give everyone a sense.
to give everyone
Just the tip, perhaps?
Yes, some flavor. You know, here's a little bit of flavor of what to
I couldn't help
expect.
myself.
This is your captain speaking. According to our flight plan, we'll arrive.
Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operation.
I see. Men to woman, or woman to men.
Man to woman.
From penis to vagina. Is it for you?
For me.
What would you like to know about it, madam?
I want to know it all. What is the protocol, the techniques and the risks? How many
This is so
This
stupid.
feels like a South Park joke.
It does.
It's so cringe.
That is a horrific song from just a tune and rhyme scheme. I
It
hate
hurts
it.
the ears.
Yes.
It hurts the ears.
I like musicals on Broadway. Like I don't
Well,
like.
okay.
I'm not a movie musical guy.
Yeah.
And there has been this weird switch from actually singing
To
over the
talking.
last 10 years to like this weird talking.
Yeah.
This isn't a musical. You're talking to music.
You're talking in tune
Yeah.
at most.
I don't understand why so many musicals have transitioned to this type of musical. It's very weird. Maybe it's because they want to attract big name talent.
They can't all sing.
Singing,
They can't all
yes.
sing.
Singing is a whole other bag
Yeah.
of
Russell
skills.
Crowe, Les Mis.
Yeah, not everybody can pull it off. So maybe that's why it's transitioned to get more mainstream people on Broadway, which also helps sell tickets to a medium that's not as popular as it used to be. And now the same thing's happening here with feature films.
It's just painful, though. How do we go from like this Dancing in the Rain, The Sound of Music, Grease, fucking to this?
Yeah, you brought up a
A
good
Star
point.
is Born three times.
Yeah.
time do you need?
And now it's I can't. I wouldn't even call it music. Like, I swear to God, if you took those lyrics and did a AI voice modulator to make them Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny, you would not think that's not a South Park episode.
That's what it does sound like, doesn't it? It sounds like it was written by Trey Parker and Matt.
It does.
Okay. This is what Hollywood has become. Okay. So you go from
It's called instrument.
The hills are alive with the sound of music, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years. Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about
Oh my God.
sex change
That hurts my brain, dude. You doing that transition just fucking physically hurt.
The hills fill my heart with the sound.
From penis to vagina. Is it for you?
You're all right.
Like, how
how did this happen?
It's one of those questions that I think a lot of filmmakers, especially in our field, have been asking. Why is there this movement to
Towards
making films that
skillless
aren't-
films?
Yeah, to making films that aren't meant to be musicals.
Yeah.
And like when it goes back to like even when you look at Joker 2, everyone was confused. Why are you making this into a musical? and nobody under the sun was going to gave a straight answer. Why.
Well, because the true answer was they wanted to just destroy anything that people who liked the first one believed about it.
But then you get like films like this, and that's why I was like cracking up, because one of the films in there that everyone is comparing Emilia Perez to and seeing how it's going to favor how it's going to fall in the awards is Anora, because Anora everyone says, like, when you look at Anora, it's almost like those two are going to be the ones that are combating each other.
I hate to break it to everyone, Emilia Perez ain't winning dick.
She didn't want a dick.
Yeah, I did not.
Yes.
Got it.
All right. So
What's the
next
next
up,
one?
I think it's yours, Tom.
Next up, I'm Still Here. Based on Marcelo Ruben Paiva's 2015 memoir of the same name. It is the story of a mother and activist coping with the forced disappearance of her husband, the dissident politician Rubens Paiva, during the military dictatorship in Brazil. This is a foreign film, obviously from Brazil. It's the political thriller, the family drama.
Very odd film.
It is a very odd film. This is one of the other films that I was like trying to figure out, okay, why is it here?
Okay, so Best Picture. Do you think it is less about options now that I'm seeing these and more about a multicultural agenda?
I started thinking about that.
Are they trying
When
to
you
now
were talking
use
about
Best Picture as a way to represent?
I mean, they did talk about doing that. There was the talk of mandates and how many, what you had to have to get nominated.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
That's
Well, I think it's both.
I don't have a problem with that at all. I just hope these movies are
worth it,
are good.
Because I remember some of the talk from last year's lot. A lot of people were saying, "Oh my God, some of the international films are better than some of the best."
Well, that's what I was just saying at the top of the show. Like, out of all those films I watched, 80% of them were foreign and indie films, because those films are, at this moment, to me as a film lover, are better movies.
Yeah, and like now, when you look at the list, it's almost like, oh, the Academy had to backstep and actually had to make a choice.
Yeah. All right, and the next one,
I'll take that one because it's personally my top 3 favorite film of last year, which is The Substance.
We skipped Nickel Boys.
Oh, Nickel Boys?
I'll do Nickel Boys.
You do Nickel Boys?
Yeah. So Nickel Boys, based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Colson Whitehead, Nickel Boys chronicles the powerful friendship between 2 young African-American men navigating the harrowing trials of reform school together in Florida. Director Ramel Ross, I want to say, writer as well, with Jocelyn Barnes and Colson Whitehead, obviously the writer, starring Ethan Hersey, Brandon Wilson, and another name I apologize, I'm going to just butcher, so I'm going to skip it.
Sometimes you just need to pretend you pronounce it right and don't draw attention to it. Just be like
Anjuanu Elise Taylor.
Yeah, be like Sean Backer and James Mangold. Just go with it.
Yeah.
The Substance. Go ahead, Dave.
Substance is Elizabeth Sparkle, renowned for a aerobic show, faces a devastating blow on her 50th birthday as her boss fires her amid her distress. A laboratory offers her a substance which promises to transform her into an enhanced version of herself.
Now, this one I've heard a lot of praise for this one through the grapevine, people talking about it. Horror, the comeback of a career, that kind of thing.
I had so much fun with this film because originally me and Mike walked out of the theater. I remember me and Mike looking at each other going, we're confused about it.
No, we weren't confused. We said we liked 99% of the movie. Yeah, but let's leave it at that.
You get to the ending.
Yeah.
But like as time has worn on, I'm like going, I can forgive it for that ending.
Well, the movie, in my opinion, The Substance should probably win.
Oh, absolutely. That's the one that I'm rooting for.
I'm not going to say anything else because I want to save it for other shows, but The Substance has it all. It's sexy. It's cinematically perfect.
Perfect.
It's a beautiful film. It's directed gorgeously. It's a new talent, Carly Farja.
Yeah.
Demi Moore's return to stardom, and she just knocks it out. It has something important to say.
It's disturbing.
It's disturbing.
It is disturbing.
It does what it's supposed to do in that genre.
It is extremely disturbing, and it is technically a sci-fi body horror. Sci-fi-ish.
Sci-fi.
You know what?
Pseudo.
You know what? Let me use the other term. It's speculative fiction.
That's a bit better.
Okay, so the next is Wicked.
The first part, which they don't tell you that.
Yeah. Well, I think they weren't quite sure they were going to make the next one. I think is originally why it wasn't called Wicked Part 1.
Well, apparently it is that, 2-part adaptation of the stage play.
Is it? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're doing a second one. So the first one's just called Wicked. For those who aren't familiar with the famous stage play of the same name, Elphaba, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. A misunderstood young woman because of her green skin and Galinda, a popular girl, become friends at Shiz SHIZ University in the land of Oz. After an encounter with the wonderful Wizard of Oz, their friendship reaches a crossroads.
Okay. All right, so let's just jump right into the directing category. So for directing, Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez has been nominated for Best Directing, as well as Sean Baker for Anora, Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, Coralie Farja for The Substance, James Mangold for A Complete Unknown.
So, I mean, that's not surprising. Usually if you get nominated for director, you get Best Picture as well. But I'm amazed that Denis Villeneuve for Dune did not get anything in this category. I'm really surprised by that. The Dune Part 2, and truthfully, Dune as a whole, that 1 and 2, is a really fucking amazing movie in a lot of respects. It is beautifully shot. Its special effects are amazing. It is probably the first time in a long time that I sat back in a movie theater and had a holy shit, like jaw drop wow moment.
Oh yeah, comparatively to the first film even, I would take Dune 2 over Dune 1. Because the performances itself. I mean, I thought the character of Paul Atreides in this one was better and more engaging than when in Dune 1.
Are you talking the part 1?
Part 1.
Yeah. Well, because he has to be. It's like two halves of the character, same story. So I get what you're saying there.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the director doesn't even consider them sequels.
It's not really. It's like Lord of the Rings.
I think he even might have used that example. He said, these aren't sequels necessarily. They're just stories from the books that I just chose to tell. They're not necessarily sequels.
It's one book.
Yeah. He took isn't he taking things from other sources? Plot wise, it's from the books, but I'm talking about cosmology. Like, I'm not talking about actual story. There are cosmological aspects. I believe he's pulling things that help explain the world. Yeah. Kind of like Peter Jackson
did with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
He's taking some cosmological elements that aren't talked about in the book, but just so that you can kind of get a
better understanding of the world.
And a feel of not just the world, but the universe around Arrakis. That's what he's pulling on, because there's a lot of things that hardcore Dune fans are like, oh, this isn't brought up in the book quite yet. Why is he doing this?
I can't stand people like that.
Well, that's the thing too, though. Dune is a dense fucking read.
Oh my God, it is.
And frankly, it loses its way pretty quickly. The series does. But to make this is one of those ones where it's like the unadaptable kind of movie for the longest time, because of the complexity, the amount of world building, the time it would take. So the fact that it was done at all, I still find this is the one that I would have thought is a shoe-in because of.
It's strange. Yeah, you're right, Thomas. It's strange that he didn't get nominated as Best
Director. It feels surprising.
Because Dune, if you look at Best Picture qualities, Dune encompasses
everything.
Everything about film in so many ways. It's superbly directed. The acting is very well done. The world building, just the amount of nuance that's been put into this film. What's the last feature film that had this type of nuance?
Yeah. But if you think about it, Mike, look at the other directors who he had to run against. You have Corley Farja, who I believe deserves to be there.
I do absolutely agree with that.
James Mangold, I thought he did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And he deserves to be there. Then you have The Brutalist, which I haven't seen yet, but
rumor has it.
Yeah, rumor has it from all the filmmaking circles, Brady Corbett deserves to be there for what he did for a 3-hour epic.
It's hard for me to say whether or not Denis Villeneuve should have been included in the best directing. My knee-jerk reaction or response would be like, yeah, he should, but I can't definitively say that yet until I've seen Honora and Emilia Perez.
Those are the two.
Yeah.
Basically, you're like going, okay, why did he get shunned for this?
So far with The Substance and A Complete Unknown, I would agree with those. They should be there. They're excellent films. They're definitely Oscar-type films. Well, The Substance, the genre it's in isn't typical Oscar type of material, but the artistry behind it is what makes it Oscar material.
That's the amazing part about that film.
Yeah. All right. So actor in a leading role, Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. Has anyone seen The Apprentice? Because I've heard nothing about that movie other than it took a huge dump at the box office.
Yeah, that's the only thing I've heard about it. I heard he was good.
Yeah, that's Sebastian Stan's great. I mean, he's a good actor. So I'm not surprised to see his name on there, but I've just heard nothing about The Apprentice in terms of social relevance, in terms of people even giving two fucks to watch it. Because honestly, if you are a pro-Trumper, you're not going to want to watch this because this is not a great depiction of Trump. And if you are someone who hates Trump, do you really want to see more Trump?
Right.
Exactly.
Well, it's a weird decision to make this movie right now in general.
And also, I have to throw out there Sing Sing, too, because like not a lot of people have talked about that film. And it's kind of like, I had no idea about, Coleman Domingo's performance in it. All I've heard is just word of mouth.
We know he's good, but
we know he's good.
Back-to-back nominations for the same actor in a leading role for Rustin last year. But the problem is, it's like Coleman Domingo is a phenomenal actor who is in projects no one's seen.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, dude, your agent needs to help you more.
Yeah.
Like, that is fucking you over.
All right. So actress in a leading role, Cynthia Erivo. Is that how you say your last name?
I believe.
Cynthia Erivo, Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon, Emilia Perez, Mikey Madison,
Mikey Madison, yeah.
Honora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres, I'm Still Here. I've only seen The Substance out of this list, and Demi Moore. We said this in September, David.
Yes, we did.
I'm going to pound my chest. We were the first ones to say, and I promise you we were the first ones. We reviewed it early, 5 days before it came out. We completely broke down the psychological aspects. So scroll down on your Critique Revolve feed if you haven't listened to it. We break it down. Now, if you haven't watched the movie, it is spoiler heavy.
Yes, it is very spoiler heavy.
Because we break down aspects and what this director was doing. And we said Demi Moore will probably get nominated for an Oscar. We didn't think the movie would, only because it's a horror film.
Yes.
Right.
But we were like, it would be really hard not to nominate such a performance.
Yeah. And out of the field, I am rooting for Demi Moore.
Yeah.
That'd
for sure.
be nice.
Yeah. All right. So actor in a supporting role, Yura Borsov, Honora, Kieran Culkin, A Real Pain, Edward Norton, A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce, The Brutalist, Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. Ed Norton did a great job in A Complete Unknown. It's so nice to see him acting again because he had such
he was gone for a while.
He just appeared, and I think a lot of it had to do with just the climate change. Mm-hmm. He's one of those, I would call him an auteur actor. He really does push his signature on the movies he's in, and sometimes that rubs directors the wrong way.
Yeah.
That was something that has been known about him for forever, for years. So it's nice to see him be able to play nice with a director, and in doing so, he played a great part.
The one thing though, Mike, in this category, I think this is the one category where I see my first snub. And I think you know where I'm going to go.
Well, first off, they're all white.
But Dennis Quaid in The Substance needed to be nominated.
We did say that, didn't we? We
Yes.
did say that during our discussion that Dennis Quaid should be nominated for a supporting acting role.
I love Kieran Culkin. I think he's been on a hot streak for the past 2-3 years.
Who?
But come on, Kieran Culkin.
Oh, yeah, dude. He is. Who would have thought that out of all the Culkins, he would be the one that would actually be churning out some pretty good performances
things
of late? Yeah.
Yeah. But like, honestly, this is the one area where I'm like going, okay, my first snub, my ultimate snub, when people talk about snubs in Academy Awards,
You think it's Dennis Quaid?
Dennis Quaid.
Yeah.
Because he should have been there. And I have a gut feeling, someone brought this up to me when I talked about it online with a friend of mine. He says, Dennis Quaid could have been like snubbed because people didn't like the portrayal that he was putting forth.
Yeah, yes, that could be it. But we've had horrible bad guys be nominated before. It also might be the fact that it might be political. Because he has spoken in support of Donald Trump. He also, at the same time that this movie came out, The Substance, he was also starring in the Reagan film, which was blasted for being ultra conservative. But he's just a normal guy.
He's a normal dude.
He may be supporting Trump at this moment, but he has a history of just being generally a normal dude that just supports things that he sees as practical at the time. So that could be it. Political reasons as well. All right. So actress in a supporting role, Monica Barbaro, a complete unknown. Ariana Grande for Wicked. Felicity Jones for The Brutalist. Isabella Rossellini for Conclave. Zoe Saldana for Emilio Perez. I'm going to have to take umbrage, Thomas, with Isabella Rossellini for Conclave. Was she good in that role? Yes, but should it warrant a supporting role nomination when she was maybe in a total of 5 minutes?
Yeah, I have to disagree with that one.
5 minutes of screen time.
Here's the thing. If it was an amazing, astounding 5 minutes, because that's happened before.
Like America Ferrera and Barbie.
Oh my God, you're right.
That was amazing, Thomas. That was a 5-minute monologue. It was awesome.
There have been precedents of this before, but I have to disagree. There was not enough substance there.
She was great, the little she had, but a nomination with all of the other women they could have put into the supporting role.
Yeah.
What about Margaret Qualley from The Substance?
From The Substance.
That would make more sense. She did really good.
How is that not in here?
Yeah.
But Isabella
Rossellini
feels
weird.
It's very strange. All right, so writing, adapted screenplay, complete unknown, Conclave, Amelia Perez, Nickel Boys, Sing Sing.
Okay, I have to make a statement, qualm, angry, rage here. How the fuck is Dune not in the nom?
Or adapted?
The effort to take that and make it into something half semblance decent.
I agree.
From the fucking tome that is Frank Herbert's novel. Come on, man.
Was
the amount of just the fucking effort to do that compared to, frankly, I'm going to be a dick, adapting Dune versus adapting Conclave. One of these is fucking easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, was the first Dune movie like nominated? I can't remember if it was.
It was nominated for quite a lot.
Not anything big though, was it? It was not for Best Picture, unless I'm completely off.
Because that was the thing that I was like also confused with the adapted screenplay was like, wait a minute.
It was nominated for Best Picture, Adapted Screenplay,
there.
Original Score, Costume
I thought
Design,
so.
Sound, Film Editing, Makeup and Hairstyling, Cinematography, Production Design, Visual Effects.
Okay,
And yeah.
this movie, Dune 2, is a superior film than the
to
first
Dune
one.
1.
And the first one was great.
Yeah.
So how the fuck
That's weird.
is it
He
walking away?
he must have pissed off
He had to-
someone.
it has
mu-
half the
he must have
nominations.
slept with one of the Academy members' daughter.
It has half
Something.
the nominations that the first movie did.
Yeah.
I don't think the 3-year gap helped, though. Lord of the Rings had a 1, 2, 3 release. This had a 1, 2. Like that's too long, man. I don't think that's helping you.
So for writing original screenplay, Honora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, September 5, and The Substance.
I haven't seen enough.
I've rooted for the substance
to
in
make
this
a
one,
statement
unless
there.
the Brutalist just blows me out of the water.
I've also heard, I have not seen it yet, but it is available on Hulu currently. I've heard A Real Pain is pretty good. It's, I think for people like us, for people who like movies, if you're expecting like a mainstream picture, then it's not going to be your thing. But I have heard that movie was pretty well written. Animated feature film, Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, The Wild Robot.
Yes.
I think that's going to come down to the Wild Robot. And
I want the
Inside
Wild
Out
Robot
too.
to win.
Well, from what I've heard from a lot of the academic circles, The Wild Robot is like a far superior film.
Superior film.
Yeah. Animated short film, Beautiful Men, In the Shadow of the Cypress, Magic Candies, Wonder to Wonder, Yuck.
Never take magic candies, kids.
Cinematography. I'm going to have some problems here. The Brutalist.
We're saying that a lot.
It should be. Absolutely.
Oh, it has
Dune
to be.
Part 2, thank you. At
Finally.
least. Amelia Perez. Just on that clip, I don't see why it would be nominated, but okay. Maria, same thing. Nosferatu.
Which, okay, time out. Nosferatu gets nominated for best cinematography, but it gets snubbed in all the other ones.
We're gonna have to keep this short, but I know you're definitely passionate about this, and so am I. I have seen Nosferatu, and the fact that it wasn't at least nominated for Best Picture, I can possibly understand writing because personally, Robert Eggers is an amazing visualist.
Yes,
like his vision and the way he directs is superb. The scripts at times are a little abstract.
Yeah,
that was the issue for some with the Viking movie, the Northman.
The Northman, yeah.
I love that picture, but I like abstract and I like psychedelic. I like cerebral pictures. So I don't understand. To me, Nosferatu is a 90s, 2000s type of Oscar film, and it blows me away that this movie wasn't even considered for Best Picture at least.
So here's a question.
But it's only given best cinematography.
Here's a Nosferatu?
Oh, no,
it's got visual
effects too. We haven't got down there yet, but yeah.
I have to ask, because we've said this like phrase twice now, that these are what we would have expected to get nominated back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Are we old? Is it, and like before the jokes are made, because obviously, but is it that we are expecting a bygone era? Is it that Hollywood and pop culture taste for movies has changed so dramatically? Or is this a boring year with political backing behind some of these nominations of people making content rather than art?
I think there's validity to everything you're saying. I mean, those are all valid points and potentially valid reasons. I don't think we're old. All of us are very much in touch with pop culture because of what we do, because we write, we talk movies. You have to be a part of what's going on.
Yeah.
So my personal subjective opinions aren't based on me being old necessarily. I am open to new things and I love new pictures, but to me, these movies aren't bad, but they're just not Oscar films. They're very small, low-key films.
And that's the thing is kind of like every year we know how the game is played in the Academy Awards. Every time the three of us have covered it, we've always told people there's a lot of mitigating factors why movies get snubbed. Yeah, there's a lot. It's Game of Thrones. It's Game of Thrones out there in Tinseltown. So it's understandable why some things get snubbed and some things get praised more. However, this year, I think this is one of those years where basically it's more about the political stance of everybody than.
That's what I was saying earlier. Like, is this the zenith of that taking over?
Yeah.
The methodology behind the madness.
But we've seen this curve happen many times throughout the Academy's years.
It does.
Yeah, it'll rectify.
It'll rectify.
It will. And I also just think this is an example of a year that just wasn't that astounding as we went through the box office.
I think that's more.
Because this reminds me of
than anything.
2020 and 2021, those years where Nomadland won, going against The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, The Trial of the Chicago 7. Like, that's not a year of, oh, fuck, did you see Trial of the Chicago 7? Said no one. And then 2021 had Coda winning, which I still haven't met a single person who's seen that movie. Belfast.
Always with Coda, dude.
It's always a Coda.
Belfast, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune Part 1, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, West Side Story. There's a couple in there. Dune being the biggest name. Don't Look Up being maybe the most talked about due to how sadly accurate that was. But this is just, it feels like it's also just a year of,
Yeah.
Just wasn't that much.
Yeah. I think that's what it really comes down to more than anything. So we're going to go through these next few very quickly, so we won't have time for commentary here. Costume design, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Gladiator 2, Nosferatu, Wicked, film editing, Honora, The Brutalists, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Wicked, makeup and hairstyling, A Different Man, Emilia Perez, Nosferatu, The Substance, Wicked. Music, original score, The Brutalists, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Wicked, and The Wild
Seems to be a pattern here.
Music, original song, El Mal from Emilia Perez, The Journey from the 6888, Like a Bird from Sing Sing, Mi Camino from Emilia Perez, Never Too Late from Elton John, Never Too Late.
Okay, quick question. What was the song that you played? Is it one of these
one of these two?
I can play El Mal real fast if you want.
You don't need to do that.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that the one that you played earlier is not because otherwise I will walk into traffic.
All right. So the next one is international feature film. I'm Still Here, The Girl with the Needle, Emilia Perez, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, and Flow. And I will say I've just watched The Girl with the Needle, which just came to Mubi streaming.
Yeah, you told me about it.
It's a beautiful film. It's disturbing, like every movie I seem to like nowadays. It is.
It's Mike's perfect film.
It is about a female serial killer.
Oh, that sounds like Mike.
That murders babies. So that's not like I'm not into those types of ladies.
Took a left turn,
and it is dark as hell.
Jesus,
but it does have some very intriguing social commentary.
Yeah,
so it's not just exploitive. It is an art picture, but not an annoying art picture.
I remember, Mike, it's going against the singing film,
dude. If Emilia Perez, I don't have to see Emilia Perez to know that it's not nearly as good as The Girl with the Needle.
Girl with the Needle.
Yeah, and if Emilia Perez wins,
traffic.
I will do a Girl with the Needle maneuver on everyone.
Jesus.
No. All right. Production design: The Brutalists, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, and Wicked.
That's a tough category.
That's a tough category.
Visual effects: Alien Romulus, Better Man, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked.
That one I'm hoping for Alien Romulus, just because of what they were able to accomplish.
Yeah. So those are the nominations. We will be back in a few weeks to go over the nominated films after we've watched them all, and we'll offer our thoughts, our opinions on what we think will win, and then, of course, our own subjective wants, what we want.
What we
to
think
win.
and what we want.
Yes.
Often very different.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Thomas and David.
Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operation.
I see.
Cut. No good for sound.
Well, fucking hell, Lloyd.
Man, game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
I'll be back.